Endeavor from My Hero Academia is widely hated, and that's fair. Me, while I didn't like him as a person, I really liked him as a character, since he reminds me of my dad. My dad was abusive in different ways, so it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I definitely relate to Shoto's anger, especially about how his dad treated his mom. And Endeavor has such a unique character arc that truly endears me to him now. He recognizes his mistakes and resolves to atone for them, even if nobody thanks him for that. He lets go of his selfishness and accepts being hated, as long as everyone else is better off. He's willing to not be at that table, if it means everyone else is happier and healthier. The reason this resonates so much with me, and the reason I'm willing to forgive his mistakes and move on, is because that's what I wish my dad would do. If my dad ever made a genuine effort to be better the way Endeavor does, then I'd be willing to let him. For now, it's a very cold relationship between us, but I still pray for him. I forgave him a while ago for my own sake, even though he isn't sorry. It wasn't easy, but I'm better for it. Anyway, I want to analyze Endeavor's arc. When we're first introduced to him, he's a classic abuser. Obviously a prideful asshole, but here the arc is really for Shoto. Later he gets a proper arc of his own, and we explore more of his backstory that led him to becoming who we see in the beginning. This is super interesting storytelling. He was always prideful, obsessed with the prestige of being the most powerful and skilled. He and Bakugo, if they just wanted the title, they could adopt personas more like All Might. But that's not who they are. They wanted to earn it through their deeds. All Might wanted to be number one to inspire people, while Endeavor wanted it for what I guess was some kind of self-validation? You can debate me on that by all means. But things went wrong for Endeavor. His pride leads to a severe inferiority complex when he realizes he'll never be as good as All Might. This led him to lose himself and his family without even realizing it. It led him to a quirk marriage with Rille, which was obviously extremely unethical. But even then, he wasn't yet the Endeavor we see at the beginning. He wanted his child, a chosen successor, to live out his dream. Whether he was even consciously aware of the futility of that, I don't know. But Rille comments once what her favorite flower is, and he commits it to memory. They have a child, and from his perspective, everything is going fine. He was being a decent dad and husband. Unreliable narrator here, but the other siblings were too young to remember it, and I don't think Rille ever comments about where things went wrong. But she does say she knows their father does care about them in his own way. Before you throw shade at that or question the authenticity of that claim, let me talk about my own experience. My mom defended my dad so much while I was growing up, assuring me and my siblings that he loved us in his own way. And he was abusive towards all of us, so that was hard to believe. But even after she broke through his control, by the way, my mom is tough as nails, she still tried to assure me that he was doing the best he could with what he knew. His mom and dad weren't model parents either, but that doesn't really make it better. No matter what influenced him, his actions were still his choices. She's less forgiving now. She still has a lot of anger. But what I'm saying is, we see Rille while she tries to stand up to him, while she's under his control, when she's at her breaking point, and finally, when she reconnects with Shoto. That's when we get the line about him caring in his own way and sending her flowers. It may seem a token effort. My dad would try to use superficial gifts to make up for his shortcomings and wrongdoings. That's not his love language, by the way, it's just what he thought he was supposed to do. But Endeavor ignored Rille in the hospital for years, until he starts going through his arc. At least, the one flashback where Shoto asks about her makes it seem like he doesn't care. Or maybe he was actually giving her space, I don't know. I'm just saying, from my experience, I am inclined to believe Rille when she talks about him. Anyway, back to, he was being a decent dad and husband at first. Toya showed promise, but it became clear using his quirk would only lead him to hurt himself. Endeavor pleaded with him to stop, but Toya was obsessed with making his dad proud of him. So he kept trying the only thing he knew. Endeavor seemed to ignore young Natsu and Fuyumi for the most part, which is bad enough. But then he had Shoto. Suddenly, his dreams were in reach, and he said, screw everything else. He put the other kids on Rille so he could focus solely on his work and training Shoto, what he wanted to do. Selfishness. Yeah, I recognize that. He did not see Shoto as a person, only an extension of himself. It was about what he wanted. No one else mattered beyond vague responsibility like paying their bills and stuff. He got involved when he had to, but genuinely didn't want to. He had more important things to do with his time, like work and training his successor. Especially after Toya died. I do believe he regretted the way he treated him and viciously blamed himself for what happened. But after it was done, he saw nothing else to do but continue his self-appointed mission. He could have learned from his mistakes, but instead he went back to them. Yeah, I recognize that too. Not just from my dad, but me. But All Might loses his power. Endeavor becomes number one by default. Time for an identity crisis. He seeks out All Might for answers. All Might questions what he fights for. Endeavor looks at Shoto bonding with some kids and realizes, possibly for the first time, he wants them to have a bright future. The future Toya didn't have. Even if he became number one by his own merits, it would be meaningless if the kids didn't prosper. After the training here is when he first makes a vow to Shoto to be better. Shoto, for his part, was not ready to hear that. Neither really was Gale Force. I don't remember his real name. But even he steps forward, overcoming his own prejudice and anger, saying he's hoping Endeavor succeeds in his redemption. It doesn't start off well. Hawks steals the show at the hero ranking thing, but it seems like Endeavor's speech would have been the same anyway. Words are easy, actions are what matter. Everyone looks at Endeavor with skepticism. He's not All Might. He doesn't have that charisma, that commanding presence. More than All Might's power, that was what made him number one, and the symbol of peace. So everyone is cautiously watching him, not really expecting him to live up to the title of what number one has meant. He goes out of his way to greet a fan, and it doesn't go how he hopes. Right away we see how unfamiliar he is with this position. Then we get the big high-end nomu fight, and Endeavor nearly dies early on. People are already losing hope, but Look Boy, the same kid from earlier, points at Endeavor's flames still burning, still fighting. And I love this. At the end, he admits to Nomu how similar they are, and he acknowledges his mistakes and his flaws. He says, burn up, be at rest, finally letting go of his ego and deciding to live for the benefit of others. But as we see, he lived that way for so long, it'll be a challenge for everyone else to accept his new perspective. At the end of the battle, the news lady says he's standing as a symbol. And I really thought they were going to say where All Might was the symbol of peace, Endeavor would become the symbol of victory. But it didn't go that way. That was just the vibe I got after this fight. While that fight is happening, I love Shoto watching the screen. I also love Aizawa coming over to check on him, but he's another topic. I love Aizawa. Anyway, moving on, we get a scene of Fuyumi hosting a dinner with Endeavor and her brothers. Natsu he reminds me of my brother. Shoto reminds me of me. Fuyumi reminds me a little of my mom in this scene, but none of them are one-to-one. But we see Endeavor making an effort. This is one of those scenes where I'd like to know how someone would react to this if they saw it only from Shoto's perspective. Take away all the other scenes with Endeavor where we get his perspective, and just look at it from Shoto's. But because we do get his perspective, we know that he is sincere in his efforts, but again, he's in unfamiliar territory here. Shoto and friends go to do their work studies with him, and right away he's polite to Deku and Bakugo, but tells them straight up he's only interested in training his son. This is good because it's not an immediate transformation from who he was, it's an ongoing effort. But he changes his mind when he gets a warning from Hawks. Could that have been stronger? Yeah, probably for him. But I think it works to his benefit, because in taking Deku and Bakugo on, he does grow even more. Besides, the best redemption arcs need moments of going back to the old ways. He starts off optimistic, but Shoto tells him off. We see how hard Endeavor takes it. And this scene, I remember watching it for the first time, and I thought, Endeavor from Season 2 would not have even flinched at Shoto's words. But now they hit like a dagger. That's character growth. Again, he's changing, but he's not fully changed. So he goes on training them, and it comes to a head when the villain Ending shows up. He kidnaps Natsu, and Endeavor is paralyzed. If that was anyone else a few months ago, he would have taken the risk. Thankfully, the kids save Natsu, and Endeavor comes as close as he ever has to breaking down, and apologizes to Natsu. Bakugo tries to gloat, and he doesn't even take the bait. During the Liberation War, he takes charge and does great at the beginning, and fights like hell against Shigaraki. He goes way past his limit, and even takes Bakugo's plan and commits to it without argument. Yeah, he kind of should have won this fight if not for anime bullshit. Then there's the whole Dabi thing, and he is destroyed. In the hospital afterwards, protesters gather outside, blaming Endeavor, and one can hardly blame them. He also blames himself. He does not feel worthy of the title of hero, let alone the title of number 1. But the family joins him and tells him he doesn't have the luxury of giving up. Other heroes begin giving up in droves. I have some more thoughts about this whole sequence of events, but I want to stick with Endeavor's arc here. He breaks down in tears as his family, including Rei, tell him to get up and keep fighting. He admits his mistakes to them. Endeavor here... I can't imagine my dad in this situation. And prior to seeing this, I couldn't imagine Endeavor there either. The biggest difference between them, from my perspective, is that Endeavor, despite his focus being in the wrong places, does have a core drive to make the world better. I wish my dad had that. Anyway, after this, he gets up, holds a press conference alongside Hawks and Genist, and admits and owns his mistakes, like a real man. A lesser man would throw blame elsewhere. Endeavor a few seasons ago would have done that. Not this man. What's amazing here, I mentioned earlier, is his solemn vow to be the hated hero. He will keep on fighting, even if no one thanks him for it, as long as it means those children will have a future. One might think he's still looking for some kind of validation here, like after he wins people will accept him again. But it's clear to me he's past that. He's not All Might, he'll never be All Might, he's not the hero they deserve, he's not the hero they want. But he's all they get. This is exactly what Stain was talking about. Got the venom in his voice when he spits out the name Endeavor. He is, at that time, everything Stain hates. Selfish. But Endeavor lost when it mattered. He lost the fight in Jakku, he lost his son. Every bad thing Dabi did is on his head. At least, that's what he and others think. The Public Safety Commission is gone. There is no more reward for him, there is no more prestige, there is no more validation. And yet, he faces the most dangerous man on the planet. He fights like hell, but ultimately falls, stabbed through, loses his arm. He has a character development dream, and summoning the last of his strength, shoots up back in the fight that Hawks & Co. kept going, unleashing everything he has on All for One. Listen, every now and then I'll come across a show that I get really into. Sometimes there will be a scene that makes me jump up in excitement. Sometimes I'll even cheer, though that's rare. Sometimes I'll get a big dumb smile on my face because I'm so proud of a character. It's rare for something to cause me to talk to the screen, be it in anger or joy. Usually it's just something under my breath. I get very dramatic. And when Endeavor takes All for One, pummeling him, rocketing through the trees, and out into the open while the others watch on, I said so dramatically under my breath, "Get him, number 1." My line gives me goosebumps, because that's what the show evoked from me. Over, 7 seasons? Endeavor's redemption arc is right up there just under Zuko for me. To me, this is the moment he finally earned the title, number 1. And then All for One pulls his anime bullshit and is like, nuh-uh, doesn't count. In all seriousness though, it is awesome. I mean, the show took a dramatic turn starting in season 6, maybe 5. But damn if it's not still thrilling. That's really all I wanted to hit on. Obviously, the second half of the season has him coming to blows with Dabi, standing side by side with his family for the final showdown, and Shoto comes in defeating him with the same move again. Yeah, this didn't hit as hard as, well, really any of Endeavor's other fights. Though the final shot with them surrounded by snow, okay, yeah, that's a good close. I have no idea how the final season is going to be. No spoilers from the manga, please. I'm really looking forward to Vigilantes, but something tells me it's not going to hit the same. But I don't know, maybe. I like so many things about this show, and I can't wait to make more videos for it. Let me know what you want to see. So that's it for now, my friends. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like. I'll see you later.